Hey everyone, what's going on? This is Tito. We're going to be talking about a very interesting topic today, and that is traveling internationally during COVID-19. It's been a crazy year, and certainly one of the most difficult years for the travel and tourism industry. Things are slowly getting better, but there's still a long way to go. For us travelers here in the US, the rest of the world has sort of shut itself from us, so finding a place that will actually allow Americans can be quite difficult. In this video, we're going to break down the steps needed to travel to one of the few countries actually allowing us in. If you haven't yet traveled to Croatia, well, now's the perfect time. From incredible preserved monuments, city walls, beaches, and national parks, Croatia has it all. We're making a small series on Croatia of some of its most beautiful cities and national parks, the cost involved, how you can prepare, and what to expect. But in this video, we're merely going to break down how to get there, so stay tuned for more coming soon. Alright guys, enough of the introduction, let's get straight to it. First things first, to be allowed into Croatia, Americans are required to show a negative PCR COVID test that's no older than 48 hours from the time you arrive there. This PCR test is also known as the nasal swab test, so make sure you're getting the right test. Arriving there without one can be problematic, and you might just be forced to quarantine for 2 weeks or pay around $200 to get a test done, but we certainly wouldn't recommend trying your luck or going that route. Before doing any planning, make sure that you have a clinic or doctor nearby that can get you the results quickly, and try to make an appointment for a day before you're set to travel.
That was extremely painful. Ugh. I hate this test. Anyway, couple of tears. But we're good. Hopefully it comes back negative and we're good to go.
Secondly, flights to Croatia at the moment will be a bit tricky and can be expensive. If you're from Florida like me, you'll be in trouble to find good flights, and it's going to take some digging for sure. Most flights at the moment will require a layover somewhere around the world, maybe in England or Germany. The major airports you're most likely to fly in will be Zagreb, Zadar, Split, or Dubrovnik. Depending on what you're trying to do, whether you want to stay in one location and do day trips from there or drive around, any of these 4 cities will provide you with plenty of options. We personally flew to Zagreb and drove down the coast from there. The flights weren't terrible, and it was a good matchup for my fiance and I. It wasn't cheap, unfortunately. I flew to Miami from Zagreb for just under $1,500. So yeah, that hurt. I always recommend browsing with skyscanner.com first. I've been using them for years, but feel free to browse to all the different channels out there. Once you have the flights, hotels, and itinerary planned out, you want to head over to entercroatia.mup.hr, or you can also search for Enter Croatia on Google. Croatia is requiring travelers to fill out this form before they enter their country. This form asks for your basic details, where you're going and staying, preferred method of contact, and so on. Make sure you print these forms and bring it with you just in case. One thing to note as well is that Americans are still quite restricted to travel to Europe, and there's only a few countries within Europe that will allow us access. So if you do have a layover in a country where travel is restricted, do make sure that they will allow you to transit through to your destination. I had a short layover in Frankfurt, and I did actually call the airport just to make sure, and they said it was fine. And obviously I went through without a problem. However, if you do have a layover somewhere besides Germany, do some research just to make sure. For the most part, other than wearing a mask at all times, security at airports have been quite lax from what I've seen so far. On a good note, Croatia is accessible to everyone. Whether you're trying to backpack through it, stay in a cheap hostel or Airbnb, or fancy a 5-star hotel, you have lots of options. An excellent hotel between 3 to 5 stars will run between $100 to $220, with very good options in between. So again, it's really dependent on how much you're willing to splash. Lastly, if you do plan to rent a vehicle, be aware that most rental agencies have a very low inventory compared to what they usually have, and prices aren't necessarily the best. Also, remember that Europe is still predominantly manual, and automatic is sort of a luxury. For 13 days of renting with a manual, we paid around $460. Had we chosen an automatic, however, that would have jumped to close to $700. I've rented many cars in my past road trips, and there was never such a major difference. but I reckon the low inventory and the COVID-19 situation is to blame for this. Just be aware, and maybe get some practice beforehand if you're not used to it. Well guys, I think that covers most of it. As I mentioned in the beginning, this is the first part of a series we'll be publishing about traveling to Croatia. It's going to be fun, interactive, and we definitely want you to get involved. So if you do happen to have a question, please let us know through Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube, and we'll get back to you. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.